Europe out in the cold, and the U.S. Army taking food money from soldiers. It's 5 and 10 from Skywatch TV. 5 things you need to know in about 10 minutes for Monday, February 17th, 2025. I'm Derek Gilbert. Item number 5 today, J.D. Vance delivered a historic speech Friday at the Munich Security Conference. This was one that tempted me to put up a special update over the weekend, but decided to save it for today. Vice President Vance gave it to Europe with both barrels at the Munich Security Conference, said that free speech is in retreat in Britain and across Europe. He basically said, look, I know you think the greatest threat to Europe is coming from Russia and then from China, but the bigger threat is coming from within. He singled out the United Kingdom, raising the case of an ex-serviceman who prayed silently outside an abortion clinic and was convicted of breaching a safe zone around the center. Quoting J.D. Vance, Europe faces many challenges, but the crisis this continent faces right now, the crisis I believe we all face together, is one of our own making. If you're running in fear of your own voters, there is nothing America can do for you. End quote. He accused European Union officials of canceling elections, which in fact they did in Romania. People were about to vote the wrong way. The response, of course, was, as you would expect from the corporate media and from European politicians. Oh, it sounds like the speech was written by Hitler, by Putin rather, but the Hitler comment actually came from CBS host Margaret Brennan, the host of Face the Nation. She interviewed Secretary of State Marco Rubio on Sunday. He was in Jerusalem meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu. And Margaret Brennan, who I think is still smarting from the spanking that J.D. Vance gave her on her program a few weeks ago. You remember the "I really don't care" Margaret line when he schooled her on illegal immigration? Anyway, she said to Secretary of State Rubio that Vance delivered his speech in a nation that had weaponized free speech to commit genocide. To quote our good friend Pastor Paul Begley, are you serious? Free speech under Adolf Hitler? The only people with free speech under Hitler was Hitler and everyone who agreed with him. Anyone else, not so much. Astonishing, but that is just the most extreme example of the responses to J.D. Vance's speech on Friday in Europe. And I've got to say, kudos to him for having the guts to go up there and let him have it that way, because he's not wrong. He's not wrong. Free speech is being criminalized. The masks have dropped, and we see that the political left, not just in Europe, but here in the United States as well, no longer supports free speech. They say they do. But like under 1930s Germany, it's free as long as you agree with whatever the approved political narrative of the day is. And that leads to topic number 4, Ukraine. Europe is being left out in the cold as President Trump tries to negotiate a resolution to the ongoing 3-year-old war between Ukraine and Russia. President Trump's envoy for Ukraine and Russia really triggered European leaders on Saturday because he told them they would be excluded from the Ukraine-Russia peace talks. This caused Emmanuel Macron to call for an emergency summit on Sunday. Keith Kellogg, the president's envoy, encouraged Europe to join the conversation, but ultimately said they're not going to have a final say in the resolution. So Macron called an emergency summit of European leaders on Sunday, which is, I think, typifies what Europe has become. Toothless, a dog with no teeth, a tiger with no fangs, a bunch of globalists incapable of dealing with reality. They talked Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky into believing NATO would protect Ukraine and Russia. You remember when Boris Johnson traveled to Kyiv and talked Zelensky out of sitting down with Putin for peace talks 3 years ago, which would have saved countless billions of dollars and thousands of lives. And then they let Ukraine burn instead of facing the reality, which is that Russia's advantages in industrial production capacity and its huge advantage in manpower over Ukraine meant that there was just no way. Just do the math. There was no way Ukraine was ever going to win this war. Well, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky spoke at the Munich Security Conference over the weekend, spoke at the gathering on Sunday as well, warned European leaders that they would not get a spot at the negotiating table, and he's right. Ukraine was also not invited to the negotiations, which are going to be hosted by Saudi Arabia in coming days. Not China. The Saudis are going to host this now between Russia and the United States. Zelensky warned that he would not accept any deal to which Ukraine was not a part at the talks, and warned Trump not to deal with Vladimir Putin. Or else what? This, again, just recognizes what everybody already knows, that this whole war has been nothing but a proxy war between Russia and NATO. And since NATO basically means the United States, now that Donald Trump is calling the shots instead of the handlers behind Joe Biden, things have changed. Topic number 3, the economy. Democrats are finally admitting that the economy is not good here in the United States. They spent most of 2024 insisting that the economy under Joe Biden was great and that Americans complaining about the price of eggs were delusional. Well, inflation reached 3% in January, which is a slight uptick from 2.9% in December. Now, obviously, President Trump hasn't been in office for even a month yet, so there hasn't been any time for anything he's done to have an effect. But Democrats and the press are now changing their tune. In fact, Politico wrote an op-ed last week admitting that the data put out under Joe Biden was false. The title of the article, actually, voters were right about the economy. The data was wrong. This is because those whose political futures depended on the data fudged the data. As my dad used to like to say, figures don't lie, but liars can figure. Well, searching the Google News Index, it appears that the Associated Press has now changed its messaging. The AP mentioned the price of eggs only 3 times during the entire 2024 news cycle, the election campaign. But in the 3 weeks since Donald Trump was elected, the AP has published more than a dozen stories focusing on the high cost of eggs. You can see what they're doing. They're already starting to say it's Donald Trump's fault that you're paying more for eggs. Topic number 2, speaking of food, the Army taking money from soldiers for food, but not spending it on food. I mean, it's kind of a running joke. Soldiers, since the beginning of time, basically, have complained about the food they're served, and usually with good reason. Military.com reports that the U.S. Army allegedly repurposed more than $151 million that it took from soldiers' paychecks for food and spent it on other things instead. Army typically takes $460 a month per month from the paychecks of junior enlisted soldiers. This is for those who live on Army barracks, and it's supposed to go towards food. But data reviewed by military.com showed that for the Army's 2024 fiscal year, more than $151 million out of the $225 million collected. $151 million out of the $225 million collected from the 11 largest Army bases that was supposed to go for food went for other things instead. Now, it's not clear where that money was actually spent. Accounting, a bit lax. Hawaii's Schofield Barracks allegedly collected $14.5 million for food, used only $5.3 million. More than almost 2/3 of the funds went into the general fund instead to be spent on, who knows. Other service officials have addressed this in the past, saying that the food purchased at Army barracks and bases has gone down because of a perception of reduced interest in eating at the mess hall. But according to military.com, service members frequently described, quote, undercooked meat, unseasoned meals, a lack of fresh ingredients, and unhealthy menu options, end quote, as the reason fewer soldiers are eating at the mess hall. Again, $151 million out of $225 million taken from soldiers' paychecks to pay for food and repurposed for we don't know what. Coming up, the secret of happiness. You'll never guess what it is. That's next on 5 and 10.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you can support the ministry of Skywatch TV and our continued efforts to share the gospel of Jesus Christ throughout the four corners of the world and receive your very own copy of this urgent new work when you order the Rungs of Disclosure special offer. Not only does this incredible opportunity include L.A. Marzulli's new book, Rungs of Disclosure, but it also includes the Hybrid Age MP3 audio series on CD featuring Dr. Thomas Horn and Steve Quayle. But that's not all. Right now, this special offer also includes the legendary Official Disclosure MP3 audio series on CD, which is a value of $35 all by itself and features Dr. Chuck Missler, Gary Stearman, Michael Heiser, and so many more discussing the topic of alien activity all around the world through a biblical lens. Sold separately, these items hold a retail value of over $80. Yours now for your donation of only $45, which includes free shipping to all U.S. orders. But for a very limited time, you can upgrade your Rungs of Disclosure special offer to include the entire 10-DVD UFO Disclosure documentary series. Purchased separately, all of the items in the Rungs of Disclosure special offer with upgrade to include the entire UFO Disclosure 10-DVD documentary series would cost you over $280. Yours now for your donation of only $135, which includes free shipping to all U.S. orders. You can scan the QR code on your screen right now using the camera app on your phone for instant access to this special opportunity. You can also visit us at skywatchtvstore.com or call 1-844-750-4985 and ask for the Rungs of Disclosure or the Rungs of Disclosure with UFO Disclosure 10-DVD documentary series upgrade right now.
Item number 1 today. Apparently being conservative makes you happy. Who knew? This is according to a new study. The 2024 American Family Survey found that more than 37% of conservative women, this applies to women anyway, 37% of conservative women and 28% of moderate women between the ages of 18 and 40 report being completely satisfied with their lives. Only 12% of liberal women in the same age group said the same thing. Liberal women also 3 times more likely than conservative women to say they experience loneliness at least a few times each week. Brad Wilcox, who's a sociology professor at the University of Virginia and a fellow at the Institute for Family Studies who analyzed this data, said that he believes there are a couple of reasons why conservative young women are more likely to be happier. Quote, "We've seen in the research that conservative women tend to be more likely to embrace a sense of agency, and they have the sense that they are not in any way the victim of larger structural realities or forces," end quote. In other words, they are not feeling like victims. Liberal women see themselves as victims and unable to change their circumstances. Conservatives, not so much. This week on Skywatch TV, we begin a new series. This is based on the new book, Rungs of Disclosure by L.A. Marzulli, talking about the UFO phenomenon, or UAP, I guess the cool kids call it now. I was honored to host these programs, sitting in for Joe Artis Horn. We talk with L.A. Marzulli about the disclosure movement, what is behind it, and why we as Christians should care. Don't miss the program. If you think this is fringe topic, I assure you it is not. There are, and I mean this literally, I've researched this. More people believe we're being visited by extraterrestrials than believe in God as he has revealed himself in the Bible. That's not an exaggeration. You can watch the program right now at skywatchtv.com. All of our video content is always there. Our broadcast schedule, if you watch over the air, is posted at skywatchtv.com/channels. You can also catch it right now on our set-top box app, that is. Add the Skywatch TV channel to Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and all of our video content comes to you there, bypassing the gatekeepers of big tech. Now, if you do watch on the internet, we're at YouTube. That's at Skywatch Television. Please subscribe, share, click the bell for notifications, hit that like button. You can also go to Rumble, rumble.com/SkywatchTV. You can And I recommend this. Use your smartphone or tablet, add the Skywatch TV app, and bring all of our content right into your mobile device, whether it's iOS, Android, or Amazon Kindle Fire. We've got apps for all of those and links to the app stores at skywatchtv.com/app. You follow us online. We are on YouTube at 5 in 10. You're also at X, formerly Twitter, at 5_in_10. And thank you for watching as we keep watch. I'm Derek Gilbert. This is 5 in 10 from Skywatch TV.